Okay, we're talking about the kneeling row. This is a build from doing just your shoulder row. I'm very particular about the way I teach this exercise because it's really important to make sure that the foundation for movement, the whole reason you did a shoulder row first, if you're following the program, is to make sure that you have enough strength between your shoulder blades and you can set the foundation for movement, the pulling movement, before you start pulling. There's a lot of people that are getting shoulder injuries, wear and tear, rotator cuff problems, that sort of stuff, purely because their biomechanics aren't running properly, and it's usually because the foundation for movement, for pulling, isn't active. So we'll go through how to do it properly and then a couple of things to recognize after. From your big three, you obviously, depending on how much resistance you're working with, you're going to have a lot of weight in your front foot. You should still be 60-40-0 in your front foot from heel, forefoot, and toes. Neutral spine for this, as you work to pull, you're going to feel, and you'll see in a lot of other people when they do it, the tendency is to really arch like crazy. You really have to monitor your neutral spine that you're not overarched and really compressed in your lower back, okay? TVA and bracing are relative to how much resistance you're working with. Assuming you're working to failure, you should be using your bracing mechanism as much as possible. So the 4 phases of movement for this, just move your hands forward so they're a little higher, that's it. 4 phases of movement for this. Phase 1 is to pull your shoulder blades together. Now, for a lot of you, you'll feel the tops of your shoulder blades touch together. What I really want you to focus on as well, you won't feel it necessarily, but is pulling the lower part of your shoulder blade together. And at that point, you'll probably feel like your back is arching. You really have to adjust your neutral spine to fight this, okay? The other thing is, I don't want you to actively bend your arms when you pull your shoulder blades together, but they should be loose and relaxed. Don't force them straight. If you force them straight, it's actually going to compress the tendons as well in your shoulder blade, in your shoulder complex itself. So just don't try and overemphasize how straight your arms are. But your arms should be nice and relaxed, except for your hands at this point. Phase 2 is to pull the backs of your thumbs to your ribs. Okay? And again, monitoring your neutral spine, making sure you're not leaning back too far. And at this point, you'll have to maybe make some adjustments in your foot to make sure you're still 60-40-0. The third movement, which is typically the hardest movement, is allowing your hands to go forward and keeping your shoulder blades together. Okay, so if you're doing this the first couple of times, what I want you to do is, as you slowly let your hands go forward, stop, make sure your shoulder blades are still together. Keep going forward, stop, make sure your shoulder blades are together, and then until you can get all the way to the point where your arms are relaxed again. Okay. The fourth phase, which is relaxing your shoulders, is actually really important for setup for the next repetition. So you really want to let your shoulder blades relax, and you're allowed to round this way. You want to round and let your shoulders go forward, but you don't want to be rounding your spine. A lot of people, when they're relaxing in the last phase, they're rounding their shoulders and their spine. It's taking you out of neutral spine. It's affecting your TVA, all this sort of stuff. So sit up nice and straight. Keep yourself like that. When you relax your shoulders, you can reach your shoulders forward without affecting your spine. Okay. So again, the 4 movements: pull your shoulder blades together is 1, hands back to your ribs is 2, letting your hands go forward, keeping your shoulders stable is 3, and then 4 is relaxing your shoulders. The other thing I talk a lot about when I'm training people, it's sort of a mindset thing to make sure that you're thinking about the right thing when you're actually pulling. Is I don't want you to think about pulling the resistance to you, because oftentimes when you think about just pulling the resistance to you, what happens is the shoulders round forward and you tend to round your spine because you're looking at the weight. Excuse me. You're looking at the weight and pulling it into you. What I want you to think about is actually pulling yourself to the resistance. Now your body's not going to move, but thinking about it that way will allow you to open up better. You can concentrate on your neutral spine, make sure that you're nice and stable, and you're really just getting your hands to your ribs. Okay, so make sure you're practicing the 4 movements. Movement 3 is the hardest, and really drill it in so that the whole reason I teach it this way is not so that in the outside world or performance world that you're doing this so mechanically, but the best way to guarantee that you light the foundation before you start pulling is to practice it in this manner, and it'll happen naturally when you go to do regular activities. Okay?